Well, it's Tuesday night and we're back in the studio, back home from Covering. I hope you have had a great week. I hope if you were at Covering, we got a chance to say hello and see you. If you weren't there, we're sorry we missed you. But tonight, my good friend John and I, we're going to talk about the things that we can remember from Coverings, clue you in, let you know what we did, what was going on, what the good, the bad, and the ugly, and all that stuff. John Tedesco, happy Tuesday and happy Tile Happy Hour.
That's right, Craig. It is Tuesday. We are back home. I was going to say we're back in New York, but I'm back in New York. Glad to be here with everybody. Back from a wonderful Coverings 2024. This was a really great show. Glad I'm back, but glad that we went. Then how are you doing there, Craig?
Man, I had some personal stuff go on this since we got back, so it's been a rough ride, but I'm happy to be here with you tonight, and I'm excited to talk about what we learned at Coverings and what was going on there. I'm with you. I thought it was a great trip. If you stumbled onto the internet tonight and you ran into us, then you must love tile, because if you don't love tile, you're not going to hang around very long, because that's what John and I like to talk about. Whether you are on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, X, Instagram, all those things, that's what we're broadcasting live tonight. We're here to talk about tile. I see you got some questions or some hellos coming in on Instagram. What's up? Somebody says they'll see us in Orlando, and I look forward to Orlando next year. We already got an email today from the Coverings group, kind of already starting that planning.
Yeah, that's true. Wow. Yeah. So the Covering show is usually in Orlando.
Yep.
But I would say for every 3 times I have it in Orlando, they have it somewhere else. So this year, 2024, it is in Atlanta. It's been in Chicago recently. It's been in Vegas recently. Years past.
I always thought it was Orlando, another place, back to Orlando, another place. Is that not the pattern, or is it?
No, I mean it originally was. I would still say in the history of the 35 shows, it's probably 65 to 70% Orlando. I'd like to get those stats from show management. We should reach out and find out. But a home base is, in my opinion, Orlando. It's been in other places before the show got as big as it did. It was, I can remember it being in Anaheim. I can remember it being in Miami. Mm-hmm. It was in New Orleans, and those are the only ones I recall. So I think that's really it. But Orlando is it. And next year will be 2025 will be, I think it's April right now. I think April 29th through the 2nd, I believe. Yeah, is next year. So it's a little later next year, and goes into May. And yeah, correct. They already emailed us, and we're talking about next year, and we got a lot of things up our sleeves for next year.
Well, John, we got a new listener on Instagram. I'm getting some questions, so I'm going to give you a little quiz. So John has been, and he'll tell you this if you sit down longer than 30 seconds.
Exactly.
John has been to every Coverings there ever was, ever. But John, how long have you been in the industry? Give me a little recap of who you are and your tile journey.
Wow, good question. Coverings, I started in 1990, so I think that's 35. You know, it's weird. This was the 35th anniversary. It started in 1990. I think that makes it the 35th. I don't recall them really promoting it as that. Do you?
I didn't see anything, and I don't do math on the fly. So.
Yeah, maybe next year is 35, or this year's 35, 1990. We got to do the math on the fly. But I know 25th anniversary, it was in Vegas, and they hyped it up. And so tile industry, yeah. My dad was a pioneer in importing high-end Italian tile to New York in 1976-ish. And I was 10 years old around then. And riding my bicycle from school to the tile warehouse where most kids were playing wiffle ball out in the street. I had to work to eat, but it worked out well. I learned tile, learned how to drive forklifts early.
You don't look like you missed any meals either. So
Yeah, exactly. I haven't missed a meal. When I do miss a meal, I make it up. So, yeah,
That is the way to do it.
it
Yeah,
is true.
yeah. So your tile journey is a little different than mine. I'm not going to say MGG LLC. I'm not sure. I'm not going to say who my favorite tile installers are
Okay.
because we don't want to. We don't want to play. Um, I probably have a better job of listing who my least favorite are, but I'm not going to do that either. But my history is I graduated from college with a construction management degree, had no tile experience at all, and got hired by one of the largest commercial tile companies in the Southeast. And I spent 15 years there managing and overseeing commercial tile projects, everything from a backsplash all the way to uh, multi-million-dollar job in a children's hospital. Kind of run the gamut, anything from
Right.
uh, porcelain tile all the way to cut to size stone. I've seen it all, and so that's kind of my history. And after 15 years in that industry, I went out on my own and did some things. And now I met John because we both currently work at Tile Bar. Even though this is not a Tile Bar broadcast per se, we do thank Tile Bar for giving us the leeway and the leash to love the tile industry and explore our passion with a podcast. So that's kind of who we are, MGG. I thank you for being here, and I look forward to seeing you next year in Orlando.
Hey, Craig, the company you work for, are they still in business?
They're still in business. They just eclipsed 100 years in business. They were founded in 1920. And it's
wow. I was thinking they may have fallen apart after you decided to find greener pastures.
They probably hit a different gear, actually.
Yeah.
But
they had a down gear just a little for a few years.
But no, actually, I saw some of those guys at Coverings. Still have a good relationship with them, and actually probably going to see them next week because, of course, they wanted us to they wanted me to look at some of our tile, even though that's not what I do day in and day out. I try to help out when I can.
You're a Tile Bar man. You're a man of the industry. Yeah. So, through those years, you said you started with no knowledge, and throughout the years, you've seen a lot of changes in product, a lot of changes in installation methods, and a lot of innovations in the industry through factories that do a lot of R&D in tile, because tile it's not like carpet, right? Where, I mean, how many innovations can there be installing carpet, right? You get some new
Not many.
You get some new staples, you get some new padding, and that's it. Tile, it's really, and it's kind of interesting what comes first. Who's driving? Is the dog wagging the tail? Is the tail wagging the dog? Because we had talked about our friends at Latacrete, and we talked about them in previous episodes about how they introduce certain types of setting materials like latex and whatever in thin sets, and that has allowed it has allowed tile to be bonded to things that you previously were hard to, like metal or glass on glass, where there's no porosity.
Yeah.
And I feel that those innovations have allowed the factories to kind of give them the green light to do a lot more R&D. And come up with new innovative products. Because if you come up with a great product but you can't figure out how to install it properly, then it's dead in the water.
Yeah, well, I think it was funny, and I just had this brain storm while you were talking. When I started in the industry, the TCNA manual, which everybody knows is, they call it a Tile Setter's Bible. The TCNA manual was that thick.
Wow.
And now the 2023 version of the TCNA manual.
Wow.
So
Craig, for the people who just whose television broke tonight and happened to be floating by the internet and found our show, TCNA stands for
the Tile Council of North America. And so if you're an installer, no matter a commercial installer, residential installer, whatever it is, like I said, that's use that term tongue in cheek, but it is the tile installer's Bible. Any method you want to install tile, whether it's in a pool, in a shower, or just on your exterior patio. This gives you the guidelines of what the industry has kind of done some research and said, hey, if you do it this way, it'll work. And like I said, when I started originally, it was, that book was only a quarter of an inch thick. Now it's probably 2.5 inches thick. And that goes to show you how many different types of installations there can be in the world.
Unless they maybe they just enlarged the type style size.
No, I don't think they did, because
okay.
I still need glasses to read it. And all of the installations, are 1 page, 2 page. So it's
Here's a question for you, Craig.
Stuff. Sure. Go.
Yeah. Say a contractor, tile subcontractor, or a GC is bidding on a job that includes a lot of tile.
Mm-hmm.
It always, I think it always says, must install to industry guidelines, and they may even call out TCNA on the blueprints. When a guy is bidding a job, are they like going to the Bible and like looking at it, or they kind of know like what's involved?
That depends on the installer. They should be, if a set of specs and guidelines reference a specific installation method, they really should be looking at that. I have had friends that have been burned before, where you just look at the drawings, you bid it, and anytime you bid something, you call it plans and specs. And if you're familiar with the commercial industry, there's always a specifications guide. The tile side is 09300, 09318, 93XX. They'll have your guidelines. And the very last section is section 3, is your installation methods. And sometimes they'll throw in there TCNA method, blah, blah, blah. And if you bid it as F113, and if it's F115, now, if you have no idea what that means, then you're going to lose money.
So so what I'm hearing and what I'm thinking is there's probably 3 scenarios on a plan. It may not say anything about how to install it. It may not reference TCNA. I mean, it's pretty simple. If you're a specifier, an architect or designer, to cover your ass, you're going to just put, to install it to get industry guidelines. But, maybe it's a low level project. It's not really a big project. They may just need a price on installing tile. So, I'm thinking of a residential remodeling project, perhaps a small commercial project that's a little more off the cuff. So, so I think there are cases where it just assumes you know what you're doing and you were called in because you were recommended. Second scenario, correct me if I'm wrong, is they just says install to TCNA guidelines or industry guidelines. And then the third scenario is they're calling out a specific number.
Mm-hmm. And personally, I like for the specifier to call it out. And that's anytime I'm specifying a job or I'm helping an architect or a designer with a specification, I will write it out for them. Here's my product. Here's my installation materials. This is what I suggest as your advocate, as your partner in this. And I suggest you install it this way. That way, when they get 10 numbers in, they know they're bidding apples to apples. If they just stay per installation standards, then your installation standard and mine may be different, because I may know something about the job that you don't know. I may know they won't crack isolation membrane in the lobby, but it's not written there. And if I include it and you don't, you win the job because you had the lower number.
Yeah. So keep an even playing field. I get that. Yes. So, but what could be the difference? Are there some specifications that call out like a latex a particular formula to use, or is it more just the substrate, like general out?
No, I mean, it's everything from whether you have a concrete floor or you're going over a wood subfloor. And then if you want to have, like I said, crack isolation membrane, there's this method for that. Or if you want to have epoxy mortar and epoxy grout, there's a method for that.
Right.
If you want a floated mud bed, there's a method for that. F111, compared to F113. If you mix those up and they want F11, which means a bonded mud bed, and you bid F-113, you've missed all of that mud, and that's a big deal.
Right. Are they calling out any manufacturers specific products?
In section 2 is the materials section.
Right.
So in the materials section, that's where they go into they're specifying tile bars, Kenridge series, 24 by 24 Nero, and they'll have John Tedesco call for pricing, and then under that section 2.2, I think, is setting materials. So they'll say we want to use Laticrete, Trilite, blah 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 blah, and then it'll go through the grout, and then that's when they'll call out the specific materials. Now, if it's a public project, they may only call out the ANSI spec, and they'll say an equal to, and that's when you'll see, ANSI 118.4 mortar equal to Laticrete 253, Mapes Ultraflex 2, and then you have the option as a public bidder to choose which one you want, as long as it's an equal.
Right. So now you're throwing out more letters there. You're confusing people.
Yes.
A TCNA, Tile Council North America, kind of tells you the installation method that they're anticipating you to use, and then there's a section that will tell you, products and things. But why is it different with a public job?
A public job, just because it's public money, they can specify the quality of the job, but they can't specify the manufacturer.
So is that the only time ANSI comes into play?
No, ANSI comes into play all the time. ANSI is just a specific. ANSI is where TCNA is how to install it. ANSI is how it's made. So your ANSI 118 is your mortar spec. Your ANSI 137 is your tile spec. So that gives you parameters on the actual materials. And
got it.
So there's a bunch of different ANSI specs that cover the whole gamut of materials that you'll use, not only in tile, but in other materials also. And ANSI, I think, stands for
American National
Standard Institute, maybe. I got about 10 of them sitting over there on that shelf.
All right, back up. Say that again. TCNA tells you how to install it. ANSI tells you the quality of a product.
Describes what you're installing. So
it relates to the tile and the setting material and it's not a system, right? Because the TCNA calls out systems, I guess.
No, it's not a system. It'd be, for instance, if you look at the ANSI 137.1, which is your typical tile parameters, your tile specifications, it'll tell you a pressed floor tile needs to have this variance in the sizing. If it's,
got it.
And a porcelain tile can only vary this much. And then you have a whole separate one about glass tile. It's got its whole separate section. I think it's 137.3 or 5 maybe.
Is there an ANSI specification for what a porcelain is, or is that another conversation?
No, that's just a definition. I don't think ANSI may define it in the book, but I'm pretty sure the definition is in the ANSI book. I'm not sure if that is an ANSI written definition. Don't know the answer to that.
What's pretty cool is that the covering show that we just came back from, as you said during the show, Atlanta Convention Center, which is called World Congress, I believe, Convention Center or World Congress Center,
something like that.
And it's just a fancy word for expo or convention center. They have kind of two buildings, building B and C, and Orlando is a little different because it's just one big, huge square box. And I kind of like that setup. So in Atlanta, the show is so big that it kind of covers more than one trade floor, expo floor. And so Craig just naturally went to, building C, which was all the setting materials, the installation stuff, all the installation tools and
where the real people are.
Yeah, that's right, the blue collar people. And John Tedisco was looking at nice new shiny tile because, Craig, if you don't have tile to install, all that setting material is useless.
That's right.
So,
That's
we come first. And
I want to give a shout out to Keith Stevens. He called me today, and Keith, he works for one of those companies that makes tile in Tennessee. It's not Crossville, Florham. No, I don't know.
Florham.
Sorry, Keith. Sorry twice. Sorry, I didn't come see you at the booth because I know you were working. And
because he forgot the company name and he couldn't look it up. That's
why. You told me the booth number and I forgot, and now I can't even remember what company it is. But so I apologize on the air, Keith Stevens. I missed you. Be careful on your way to Tampa.
We'll give him a proper shout out in the next Tile Happy Hour.
That's right.
So we can remember his factory name. Yeah. So a big part of building C, was all the CNC machines and all the tools and setting material and their stages. And did they have installation? I didn't see this. I was at the show for many days, but I did not see the competition part. Did they have that this year?
Yeah, they had the dog houses again, where they build dog houses out of tile. And they also had the CTEF class, which I think is great. It gives an opportunity for a tile setter to actually get certified to be a tile. So they were actually holding class there on the floor. People were taking their tests.
That's perfect.
In front of an audience, which it's got to be a little nerve wracking because I was walking around going, "He's not going to pass. There's no way that's going to pass."
Oh, so is that like the practice where they have like if someone's becoming a doctor, you have to answer, questions in a written test, but also you got to perform.
Yeah, you actually have to install. They have this set up to where it kind of covers all the little bases in a 2x2x2 cube, layout, slope, turning an in corner, turning an out corner, and they're pretty strenuous on it. The actual judging of it. So
I love that, but it's not what's universal is that test is universal and and you could advertise it, universally, but what's not universal is people asking for that. I think it's kind of somewhat regional. Like I think in New York it's not asked. People aren't necessarily asked, are you CTEF certified?
They ask me that a lot. Just because of my job, they're like, well, can you recommend an installer? And I never say Joe Bob's Tile Service. I always say,
Joe Bob?
I know Joe Bob. Yeah. He's my cousin.
But his cousin is Billy Joe Jim Bob.
Billy Joe Jim Bob. But I always say, go to the CTF website. And when you go to the website, they have find a certified installer in your area. Click, and it'll give you a list of certified installers all across the nation. Now,
but I feel that they're light in certain regions.
I think they are. Yeah, I mean, especially in regions like yours where there's a pretty significant trade unions that have their own certifications. But this is across the board. This is it's probably greater than North America, I would assume.
Right.
But there's hundreds of installers there that have been certified, and there's some comfort there, especially for me. If I don't know who is doing work in Wyoming, I can go there and say, I know CTEF, and I know if this guy passed that course, there's a standard there, and that's always good.
I would think there needs to be some built-in continuing education components because things change so often.
Correct. It's like Angie's List for tile.
Got it. Right, but Angie you got to pay Angie you got to give Angie some money. Here, you have to actually show that you know what you're doing.
That's right. This is not. You still have to pay. You have to pay for the class, but I think once you pass, you pass.
Got it. So if people are so they go to the show. That's a great thing if you're an installer. I'm sure there isn't a testing site in every state, so you probably have to go to a testing site every once in a while. So you might as well do it at Coverings. So you plan your year and you do your training, you do your education and you practice, and then you decide to go to Coverings and hopefully you pass. I wonder if
that's right. You take your test, pass the CTF exam, and then also you can see a bunch of things. And I am sure that's one of the things about coverings is you see all the new things, and everybody loves the swag and all that stuff. And those guys that are taking that test, they deserve it. Hey, meet the people from Latacrete, meet the people from Ardex, and
Yeah.
and go over there and talk to them about their stuff. You never know what you're going to learn. That's why I love coverings, is because it is such just a meeting of the minds of
Right.
an industry that we care about, that we love, and catching up and seeing those people. And that was the best part of this year. I did more networking this year than I'd ever done. For a few reasons. I think it was a little bit smaller in Atlanta, so there was a little bit more freedom to get some meetings, and you didn't feel rushed. That's just my feeling. And Atlanta gave that opportunity. I think a lot of people like to go to Las Vegas, so I mean that show's always uber crowded, and Orlando's easy to get to and cheap to get to, so that show's always crowded. So I'm not going to say it wasn't crowded, because there was good traffic there, but it didn't seem as wall to wall as normal.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, it's still 1,000 exhibitors. I think some exhibitors, the big guys always show up, and the big guys always have their big booths, regardless of where it's at. I think some of the smaller companies out of the 1,000, they may judge their booth size on where the location is and the cost of, moving it from A to B. Right. So it's possible that I remember when I did coverings in Chicago, I had a booth, a 400 square foot booth, 10 by 40 for around over 10 years for one of my companies. And when it went to Chicago, the cost of the drayage and the labor was a big factor for me. And I literally cut my booth from 10 by 40 to 10 by 20 because every state has its own labor laws. And so, for example, in Orlando, it's kind of a right to work. So if you want to send 10 guys from Italy to install a tile in your booth, you can do that. In Chicago, if you have a big booth, and I'm assuming this is still how it works, is if you want to bring in 10 guys from Italy or Spain to tile your booth, you have to simultaneously hire the same amount of people in the union to kind of follow you around and watch you install or help you. So it significantly increases the cost depending on the labor laws and the union laws. So Atlanta, I don't think is that strong in that, but maybe some people. But it was a great show, and what I did hear was good quality of people. Every exhibitor that I spoke to, be it a manufacturer, setting material or manufacturer of tile, they all thought it was a great show. So part of it, maybe it was holidays, Jewish holidays at the time.
True.
So it scale back some of the attendance there, but it wasn't that noticeable. It was a really good show. I really thought it was good. What about you, Craig? Did you find a setting material or a system that you hadn't seen before, or that you would looking forward to go and see it live in person?
There was a couple things I wanted to look for while I was there. I've been looking around for a all-inclusive shower pan, and that's for a very specific part of my job that I need. And that wasn't there, but in the process of that, I was thinking through floor heating. And, I'm very familiar with the Strata Heat, the Dietra Heat, and those systems are great. I've installed both of them, but I was looking for maybe a simpler solution. So I did find actually the factory that makes the wire for most of the people in the industry actually has their own line.
Wow.
So I spent some time with them and just talked a little bit about floor heating. I saw some weird renovation drain that I'd never seen before. I'm not sure it's going to make it, but it was strange. I don't even remember what it was, but it was the guys that came up to us in the and not the green room, in the press room. When we were in the press room, they gave us their catalog.
Yeah, it came
up. That thing was so odd, and I don't know what it is, but it was like, don't even worry about moving your drain. We've done it for you. So it didn't.
Yeah, so I think they were trying to look. anytime a new product comes out or a new service comes out, you have to say to yourself as an entrepreneur or a business person, what problem am I solving? Right.
Right.
Like, I mean, you could say, hey, I want to start making paper clips because I can make them better. So the only possible problem you're solving is maybe your paper clips are better, or they're cheaper, or they're shinier, or they're in colors. But when it comes to becoming really investing in a business, so these guys came up to us and like started pitching this. I think you can move a drain from A to B, which is usually a very costly process with a plumber. There's some kind of intermediary fix. Is that what we saw?
Yeah, it was what we saw, and like I said, it was unique, and I wish them the best. I hope it works. But that was neat. I'm also I have a project manager that helps me in getting stuff loaded into the tile bar system. When I find a product that we want to bring on, Katie, and she had never been to Coverings, so it was neat to take her and say, here are the things we've been talking about. And we had a big group there, and but it was interesting to see it through the eyes of somebody that had never been there, and they're like, tile is more. Yeah, and tile is more than what I just do day in and day out looking at a computer screen. So that was I enjoyed that, and I assumed her brain's probably about to explode just because there was so much to take in.
It was a good opportunity, and I give credit to Tile Bar because her position doesn't really need for her to go to the tile show. I mean, we could see the reasons why, because you can kind of, I get it. Aha. I understand it. But I think a lot of other companies would be like, that person, Craig is going to the show to talk to factories about new products. And this is somebody who came on board who's, doing important work, but, technically doesn't need to go to the show. So I give Tile Bar a lot of credit for, allowing that expenditure to do that. And Craig was kind of the ambassador to Coverings for Katie to, I guess, introduce to some of the manufacturers that we deal with and some new things in the thought process, but also get to see and feel, touch, and, maybe understand a little more what we're doing instead of just putting in random numbers,
random SKUs.
Yeah, it definitely. So that was really good. We had a lot happening at the Covering show. Also, we did have something really cool. So last year, when the Tile Happy Hour started, which I guess we're over a year for sure now, our goal was to maybe Coverings, the industry show, would invite us to be in their podcast for this year in the podcast studio in 2024. But little do we know, as soon as we started our podcast, I guess it just was, the talk of the town.
It was amazing.
Yeah, it was amazing. And we got invited like shortly after our podcast started. So we ramped up and we did our podcast live last year. Yep. And now we did it again in Atlanta. And we talked about next year. Yeah. So Coverings Rewind. This is cool. So we had a great time at our podcast. They stepped up, I think, some of the technology. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, it was great. It was great to be able to broadcast live. So if you were around at noon on Tuesday of last week, you noticed that we went live. And, we definitely, there's a lot more ironing that Coverings and us can do to make it better. But I thought this year was better than last year, and I know next year is going to be better than this year. So, but it was great. That team, I'll put that picture up again. Of course, John and I was there, and then Sharon from Laticrete, which was the digital marketing manager of Laticrete, was there, and Allison Eden from New York City, who is an entrepreneur, and she's just an artist, was there, and we talked about the digital world, the digital media world, and how that affects our industry. And it was a great conversation, John. You kept snooping around quite a bit, but I think, we had more people in our podcast than most people.
So the the AV tech there who was setting up every podcast
Q.
instead
His name was Q, wasn't it?
Hugh, yeah. I asked him, his name tag says Quentin, and I asked him, hey, what's your name? And I saw it, and he said Q. I wanted to call him Quentin. But anyway, he said his name was Q, and he was great. He set us up.
Super nice
So
guy.
this year, I think there's at least 3 differences what happened this year. One was we had the live feed. So last year, as Craig mentioned, we couldn't go live, so we had to record it and then try to push it out. And the programming that we use to kind of manage this podcast and engineer it works when it's live because it's a cloud-based program. Yeah. So we had
shout out to StreamYard.
Yeah, StreamYard is awesome. So we did that this year, and that was huge. And I think we were probably very influential in getting that done, because most people who, Craig, we have to get out of this habit. When we tell people podcast, I think 75% of the people are not thinking video. Right?
Yeah,
they're just thinking
we need to be saying live stream.
Yeah, it's a live stream. So so last year we spoke to show management, and they said they're going to try to get in the budget, and this year they did. The other thing that was new was that Craig and I learned from last year where to sit at the podcast table. So we had 2 guests last year, and so picture a rectangular table and 2 chairs on the short ends and 2 chairs in the middle. And Craig and I sat in the middle because we thought we were so important. We're co-hosting, and our guests were to the left and right. So I was asking a question.
It looked like a tennis match.
Yeah, that was a fail. And so this year we Craig and I flanked the outside of the table, and our guests were in the middle. We gave them the proper highlight that they deserved, and we were able to really talk. And I guess the other thing was Craig and I know when each other's about to say something, or we're ready to take over finish the sentence. So we're able to we were kind of looking at each other and looking at them, and we're able to kind of produce this live. And I think we were the only one who produced it live. And then the third difference this year was our audience was about 7 times larger than last year. So so it was great. We had a lot of people in the audience, people just who were literally came to learn. It was heavily promoted by Coverings, and it was really great. And oh wow, another difference is we took questions from the audience. That was
nice.
bold.
Yeah, we had some great questions, and shout out to Mod Marketing who was there with us. Travis, who is helping Talbar. His company is helping Talbar with some influencer marketing, but he was there just to kind of get a feel for the industry. So he ran the camera, which I set up. All he had to do was make sure it didn't get knocked over and the battery didn't die. But shout out to Travis.
And we had some great questions. I do remember 2 one was Faraz Irakat, and he's known in the industry, and also Joseph Hecker. So we had a few other questions.
Stephen Wallace from Talbar.
Yes.
Well, I have a couple of clips if you want to try to throw them in.
I haven't seen anything because we've been on a whirlwind. So
yeah, it's I will say the sound is not as good as it is in studio, but that's understandable. You're in a live hall, and to get the live sound, you'd have to do a lot more than we did. But here's a couple of the clips. I have 3 clips. One of them is about 2 minutes. Is that too long?
No, let's go for it.
All right, I'm gonna go with a 2-minute clip first. Watch this.
Right.
I fixed.
If we don't lose people after that, then we'll play the other 2.
That's right. Yeah.
To learn and grow, you have to fail.
And that's
unfortunately,
a big part of social media marketing. Is there's not one thing that worked great last year that works great this year. It is an ebb and flow of how that goes. Allison, how do you navigate social media, and is that a conscious decision or is it just selfies? I don't know.
Okay, well,
what you had for lunch?
Well, so I don't even have a computer. So
how did you end up on this panel?
I'm so happy to be here. Okay, so I use my phone for everything.
Computer in your pocket.
And but I learned Instagram very well, and that was really my way into the world. And I post all the time, and I post all my projects that we're doing, and I find that they're so beautiful. I think that other people would like to see them too. Right. So I hope that what I put out there.
Well, I've noticed you put finished products, but you also show in the works. I think I like that the best. To see in your studio, you have a stencil of a pattern, and we actually worked on a project together, a cruise ship, the largest cruise ship in the world, Icon of the Seas, and Allison was part of that with me. And we did the ultimate family suites. This is like an $8,000 a night room, and we did some glass mosaic. And we just got a message from them, as you know, a few weeks ago. They needed to move some plumbing on the ship, and they need to replace some product. And they said, John, we just need to know, we just want to order a certain part. And I was like, everything is made to order. There was no such thing as replacing just those few items. They had to do the whole thing over if they wanted to do that. So my point is, it's actually exciting to see that yours is not mass produced. It's not on a template that's reproduced. You're making it to size of the space.
Right. Every project is made to order, and they're all customizable, which is really like a beautiful thing to have something really handcrafted.
And what's interesting is so Sharon was talking about ladder creep. Pardon me, but it's not as sexy as the tile, right? Thin set. But it's really a testament to social media that a company like a setting material company needs to be on social media and use digital content to put it out to have a loyal following, to get information out there. It's almost easier for Allison and our company, Tile Bar, to put product out there because it's really
Pretty
visual.
pictures.
Yeah. So that was the long.
I thought the audio was good. I'd like to give a big shout out to our producer, Craig Cahoon. I think that was amazing. I'm gonna get you a Producer of the Year award. That was really
cool.
good.
Thank you.
Yeah, the
Tile
Bar Awards. We should have the Happy Hour Awards.
Yeah, but there's only two of us unless we start giving them out to.
So you win this year, and I'll win next year. I mean, we gotta start somewhere.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea.
That was the first time. So it's really good to see because we're really ramping up for the show. We're ramping up to attend. We're ramping to broadcast. You should have saw us getting all our equipment set up. We were like scrambling to get all that set up. We did it successfully. The show runs. I know, Craig, you did more than me in the back end, and you rebroadcast it that evening, and you today. I guess you got some clips that work. But for the most part, we don't really watch any of these over again. You just do it, put it out there, and we don't have the time to go back to the 50 some odd shows we've done. So I was actually entertained by seeing the sound was pretty good. It was.
I think Q was struggling because most of the ladies were way far away from their mics.
Oh, right.
And those mics, I mean, it's SM58 if you're a sound nerd.
I thought they were SN57s, but I guess
no. 57 is a different. It looks different, but this is a SM58, and you really have to have it like right there. It's directly in. So we hindsight 2020, we should have done a little bit more thorough test with the ladies. And then by the time we got started, I could hear that it was loud or that it wasn't loud, but I could also tell that Q had run up the gain as much as he could. And if they'd have gotten into the mic, it had been obvious fail. So regardless, like I said, it's one step at a time. I think it turned out great. I haven't watched the 3 clips that I downloaded are the only 3 that I've actually watched, but we did get some comments on my website, on the YouTube channel. And Jorge, shout out to him, who is a regular watcher, regular attender. He shouted out and he's like, at the 33-minute mark, that was a great clip. And I was like, man, I wonder what we talked about then. And then I went and watched it. And then it was a good question. I can't remember it right now, but it wasn't in one of the clips that was generated. So we'll have to wait to see that one. But here, next time
we'll do some clips. Yeah, I'd like to hear some more.
You got to define who you want to reach. If you're a small contractor and you're trying to build a following of homeowners, there's a certain type of content you need to develop to do that.
Right.
Because if that's your audience, but yet you're filming your lunch, there's a disconnect.
Well,
So I would say one of those things, if you're taking notes today, is define your audience, define your tribe, and who you want to reach.
and sometimes, I mean, that's what I did. I didn't really define my audience. I just put content out there.
Yes.
What's weird to me is that you and I on the ends of the camera look more in focus than the ladies in the middle, and it's the same camera shot. So I don't understand that. I don't know if that is a part of the software that lets it up. But yeah, what a great topic about social media. And if you've not, Seth Godin's one of my favorite writers. So if you want to look for something to read any of the business books by Seth Godin, and one of them is called Tribes. And it's a great book about how to find the people that you want to be with. And
didn't he also sing "You Lift Me Up"?
I don't think so.
No, I'm thinking of Josh.
I think
Groban.
that's Josh Groban, which is a totally different person.
Oh, I was picturing him. Wait a minute. So the question is, why are we qualified to have a podcast on social media?
Well, I don't think you have to be, personally.
You don't. But why does it work? Assuming it did, I think is because we slapped it up on the wall and we figured it out, and we're at episode 56, I think, or maybe
7, I think
57. And but both of us have been doing this kind of, not podcast per se, but we've been kind of learning on the job, learning of social media, following it, and picking things that we feel work and things that things come and go, of course. So we felt the engagement that we've had throughout the last year or so on social media with the Tile Happy Hour has been so engaging and so rewarding. And after speaking with a few people about potential topics, we talked, show management, things like that, everyone was really excited about this topic because, at a trade show in general, I'm just going to make this up, 70% of the educational parts and podcasts are probably about products and things like that. Here, we were talking about something that related to Allison Eden, artist, designer, extraordinary manufacturer of cement and thin sets and setting materials and, all that good stuff. So it was kind of broad focus. And I think that was part of the reason the attendance at the live stream was really good. It was really exciting. You have any other clips, or that's it?
Yep. Got one more clip. Let's see what this one is.
So yes, brands should be leveraging social media as a network, not as an advertising platform.
I agree. And I think one of the things that turns a lot of people off is when you see, everybody, when you see that ad come up, what do? Swipe away. But when you see Allison come up talking about her amazing product, then you watch that. So I think that's a great distinction.
Yeah, that was a question from Gary in the audience, and Gary knows a lot about social media. Not Gary.
I think that was Joseph. Hecker.
Joseph, that's right. Yeah. Gary didn't show up. So we didn't forget it, Gary.
Duly noted. The audio, we had no mic in the audience, and it picked it up really well.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened. That's
we did have an extra mic, but it was still faced towards the guests. I wanted to turn it around to the audience because we had 5 mics, 4 people.
But that the SM58 wouldn't reach the guest.
That's what I did. I asked Q, can I turn it around? He's like, no, it's really not meant for that. So don't know how that worked, but that worked out well because I was afraid. We've all been to seminars where someone asks a question in a room of 500 people and the speaker comes and gives this beautiful answer, but you don't know what the question was.
I have no idea what is going. But and that was a great point. You talk about, and whether you know it or not, I dabble in the influence industry a little bit. Nobody's asked me to be an influencer, but I hire influencers. And so, the question goes is, how much money do you spend on an ad? That's over here. And then how much money do you pay an influencer to talk about your product? And so this gets more engagement because they have a relationship with the person, whatever they do, whatever they are. This is just a paid spot. And so, you have to really judge, how much money you're spending on each and how many clicks are you getting out of it. And there's a lot of math and analytics and things that make my brain
I
hurt.
hate that. Yeah. That was probably the most interesting part of the conversation, because I think that's the most interesting part of social media is in the last, I'm just going to say a few years, influencers have become so important and such an integral part. And that's where I thought it was cool that a company like Latacrete or a company like Tile Bar has, enough money to advertise wherever they decide to advertise.
Yeah.
But another method of advertising is, kind of engaging an influencer, and they get compensated in one way or another. And, as simple as, a restaurant influencer sometimes just wants a meal. And most people who are influencers want to get paid, and they get paid, I guess, on how many views they have, or, you know more than I do.
Yeah. Their audience, how big their
audience. But it was pretty cool, because Craig and I were part of the press room, and the influencers would come and go, and the press would come and go, and we got to see kind of behind the scenes. And so if you're floating around on social media and you see somebody saying, "Hey, I'm at this place today, and check out this, tomahawk steak," or check out this car that I saw at the car show, unless they're just people who are having fun on social media, those are typical. Well, that's how you start out. You got to do it for free on your own. And if you do it right and you get a little lucky, you get the audience, and then you get hired by somebody like the Covering Show, and they could have 10 people out there just talking about. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, it is cool. And in sales, we've said this for years. People don't buy products. They buy from people. So no matter what John is selling today, whether it's tile or, paper clips that he really had a lot of variety in. He had colors.
I'm on to a new design.
Polished. He's onto a new design.
Yeah.
But he's going to sell to people, and people buy from people.
Right.
And so that's where the connection is, because some of the influencers that we've hired as Tile Bar have nothing to do with the tile industry, but they have a following of people, and they have inserted our products into their life, and therefore their following of people say, well, if Lauren likes this, I should check it out. And that's exactly what happens.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. And our original lineup included an influencer at the podcast. The original lineup for the podcast.
That's right. And Nathan, who sadly couldn't make it at all. He didn't even get to the show because sickness in the family. He actually won the Rockstar Award. So congratulations, Nathan.
Congratulations.
I meant to accept the award for you. I would have made a great speech about me probably, but yeah.
I can hear your speech now. The influencer, I didn't choose to be an influencer. The influencer life chose me. I think that's what you were going to say.
But we partnered with Nathan because actually our CEO found him and sent him to me and said, I really like what this guy does. He's very artistic, but he's also a tile setter. So we reached out and partnered with him, and he was going to be on the podcast with us. And, that kind of added another job description to my job description. And so now I've been working on finding those and trying to partner our wonderful products with influencers, because in the 21st century, that's what you have to do. I mean, we heard Sharon from Latacrete say, she started out, 2 years ago, and she was a department of one, and now she's got several people working on that team, and they're increasing their social media budget. And really all it is, it's a lot of the larger companies are taking their advertising budget and they're just shifting money.
Dividing it up. Yeah. I think it was 9 years that she started, but things have dramatically changed over the last few years because of social media. And it's been a testament to what we've been saying. So Nathan came across my feeds at the same time or
Mhm.
very close to when it came across our CEOs. And I mentioned to you, hey, did you see this guy? He's John. Funny you mentioned
We
it
just
because
sent him a bathroom of tile.
yeah. So, and that wasn't by accident. Like I
Yeah.
didn't see his 6 months prior to that. I didn't know who he was, or a
Yeah.
month prior to that. And then I guess he hit that critical mass and was putting out certain content that would appeal to somebody like me or someone like our CEO of Tile Bar. And we both kind of saw him at a similar time. And so none of that, it's by accident in the sense that it's not very controlled or monitored. It's kind of things go viral, but it is a result
I think it
of
is controlled. I think there's a lot of sophisticated algorithms going on in the metaverse.
yeah. I think you probably I would say
To
that's a
you,
really strong
John,
possibility.
it shows up on my phone later. I heard you were looking for gloves. And I'm like, you know, so I don't think anything's to chance when it.
Yeah, I think that's true. So
And you said, "Hey, look at this guy," and I'm like, "Yeah, I know. I just sent him some tile." So
that was pretty cool. Yeah, so this has been cool talking about what we talked about at Coverings. The podcast, I think, was the highlight, but the products were the highlight on the tile end.
yeah,
You know, just large format products, of course, are going strong. Thin porcelain slabs are now going
are
thick,
getting bigger.
which are getting bigger and thicker, which is kind of weird because the whole thing about them was that they were thin. That was the cool
Yeah.
part about it. And now they're making them thicker, but for good reasons. And so it's pretty interesting how that's working. The technologies, the digital technologies, the
Crazy.
printing capabilities are just amazing. Companies are finding ways to make things even more environmentally friendly. Tile is pretty it's pretty much clay, water, and fire, so it's for the most part already
Friendly
pretty
anyway.
organic. Yeah, I feel that. And there was 1,000 exhibitors. If you walked the entire show, they claim it was 9 miles of tile. So
Wow.
so either they meant if you took all the samples that were there and lined them up next to each other, they were 9 miles. There was probably
Or
more
you
than that.
had to walk 9 miles to get to every
I mean,
booth.
they definitely meant that, Craig, but
Yeah.
it seems mind-boggling. But if you think about it, because that
I
place,
know the first day I had almost 12,000 steps.
yeah, I was averaging 13 to 15,000 steps a day.
Yeah.
So you were probably doing more business, talking.
Yeah.
And I was roaming.
I took a nap one day.
We won't tell anybody. So 1,000 exhibitors, 40 countries, manufacturers were there exhibiting from 40 different countries. I didn't even know there were 40 countries in the world. So see, I learned something there already. This was the 35th, I think, Coverings. It's not 34, but started in 1990. And so if you include the zero,
include 90, then yes.
so it should be 35. I just surprised it wasn't heavily. Maybe it
Hey,
was.
who celebrates 35? 25 is something.
Okay.
Next thing, this year is my 25th wedding anniversary. We'll celebrate it.
All right.
At 35, I'm probably not going to do anything.
Yeah, that's a good. I doubt that. But anyway, I get your point. 25 is the first super big milestone.
It's the silver anniversary.
This is true. Yeah, they run out of medals at 35.
That's right.
So.
You get gold and at 50.
Oh, you get gold. Okay, so something to look forward to.
Yeah.
Well, it was a great show. It was great to be there with you. It was great to be there with the Tile Bar team. We had purchasing people there. We had marketing people. We had Craig and John. It was really good to. And the one thing, the resounding, the most repetitive thing I heard from people in the industry when they were talking about Tile Bar, they would say impressive growth or impressive whatever the things that we're doing as a company are really impressive to me. And we're in the inside and we see how the sausage is made, but people on the outside see how we're growing, but not just wild uncontrolled growth. It's controlled, just but in so many different avenues, so many different directions, multiple channels, and we're doing it successfully to the point where it's noticed in the industry. And I'm glad to be part of the team. I'm glad to be your colleague, Craig, and glad to be your co-host here at the Tile Happy Hour, which happens. When does it happen, Craig?
Every Tuesday night at 8:00. We are live on your favorite social media channels. If you can't find us or you miss us during the week, I just put up all of our social media. So text us, comment, send us something, whether you're watching on a playback. We always read the comments. We always respond. And we just love talking about tile. So if you want to be a part of the Tile Happy Hour, reach out to us. We'll put you on the air. If you have a topic you want us to discuss, we will pretend like we know everything about that topic.
That's true. We do have some guests that are coming up that we chatted with at the show. So we have some really cool people coming up. So looking forward to that. If you want to see a past episode, social media is funny. There's all these different platforms we're on, but I think YouTube's probably a good spot to go look at the history. So Tile the World, at Tile the World, or at the Tile Channel, or Craig and I's respective YouTube channels. So you can go check past episodes out if you really have nothing to do and it's 3 a.m. and you want to just get up to speed on your tile. Get your tile fixed.
Maybe I don't know. I'm gonna say this and you just tell me to shut up. Maybe a Tile Happy Hour website coming.
Oh, yeah. So interesting you should say that, Craig, because a lot of people we talk to have been asking for like a home place to go find past episodes and find information. About all the stuff. So that could be something of interest. So if you guys want to see,
I got an idea for that. Yeah, let us know. If you're a web developer, you love Tile and you don't like the show and you just want to support us and you want to do it, hey, let us know. We'll let you.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Yeah, so if somebody has any input, let's take an unofficial poll. Send us a message separately if you think we should have a Tile Happy Hour website. And we can also put, if we're talking about, before we talked about Latticrete and maybe you mentioned the specific setting material, right? We could say, hey, check out on our website if you want to refer to that one product we were talking about.
Yeah,
you're talking about the in-floor heating. Let's say we took that on, we could say, hey, go to our website. So that could be a good idea. I like that idea, Craig. So cool. Well, folks, it has been 1 hour, and the Tile Happy Hour is loosely 1 hour long, and the only reason we have that is because Craig and I will talk to 11:30 if we don't have a self-imposed deadline.
That's what Joe Rogan does. He talks for 3 hours.
All right. Yeah. So what are you saying?
We're falling short. I don't know.
Well, maybe. But anyway, we have lives and families and things to do. And so
we don't get paid to do this.
This is true. That is the problem. So anyway, folks, we're so glad you're here live. If you're not watching this live and you're watching this on a rebroadcast, encore presentation on one of the social media channels, we still love you. We welcome you to contribute by asking a question even after the show has run, and let us know your thoughts. So this is John Tedisco, and I like to wish you peace, health, and happiness.
And I love talking about the tile industry and always learning, so let's keep learning together and tile the world.